and its ability or its resident wisdom. It's an amazing endeavor these two have embarked upon, and you can take part in it. halfpasthuman.com. We'll be right back. Okay, and back with Clif, and George Ewer is listening in. halfpasthuman.com. Okay, Colin Powell has said to expect a crisis January 21st to 22nd. Biden has been blabbing, you saw that. He's talking about terrible times and how people will not be happy at all and blah, blah, blah. And he's saying, I guess, collectively that his and Obama's administration ratings will may be as low as Bush's. Who knows? So a lot of this stuff's coming home to roost. There's no question about it. When you extrapolate and look at the financial situation in that paradigm, those of us who study this realize that it is not resolvable. It is not. We're talking about something on the order of 16 times a deficit of the world GDP, 1.4, 1.5, who's counting, quadrillion dollars of useless, worthless, speculative instruments, financial instruments, which are trash, total trash. The most they brought so far is 10 cents on the dollar, and the first auction I saw about. And so that's over. There will be, and I think at some level, this has been manipulated. Nothing happens by accident. Perhaps it got a bit out of control. I don't know, but this is to me, a massive reorganization of wealth on a scale that is unprecedented. And I think that there are people who are very well comfortable with the direction things are going, and will, as always, extract, in a parasitic sense, from the middle class, what's left of that, and all classes, actually, to a degree, what they can, and go on their merry way. And those who go to Costa Rica will probably come back in a couple of years when they see it's no better down there.
Maybe a lot sooner. The indications are, too, that this is a unique time in history on a number of different levels, that we won't have the traditional flight of the elite to their safe havens while everybody else rots for a few years, and then they come back when we've all forgotten. This is because we're reaching the limit of what resources we can extract under current form of, which has to be called predatory or capitalism. Or self-consuming capitalism. It just won't work anymore. We're consuming 40% of the biota of the planet.
Correct.
And at some point, we're going to reach very soon, into a point of insustainability, no matter what's done. And then in addition to that, we have the external pressures on the biosphere that are hitting all of the planets in the solar system as our solar system slides into the ecliptic plane of the Milky Way galaxy. Whether or not you dispute that we're from Sagittarius B galaxy sliding into the Milky Way for the first time, or we're merely warping in and out, this is the first time in anything close to modern human history that this has occurred. And the effects on the sun and the rest of the solar system are quite noticeable now. The heliosphere is degraded by 25% in just less than a year and a half.
Be interesting to be a fly on the wall in one of those visiting spacecraft that come here with other intelligent life forms, and how they study and watch and what they know about all this. Yeah.
Oh, yes, it would. The more information, the better, is the way I figure it. And that's why I'm really kind of ticked at the elite. They have a particular viewpoint that I find offensive, and it's not the hoarding of the power and all of that. I find that rather bizarre. I just don't identify with it. But what really ticks me off is the way they hoard knowledge, because there's a whole lot of really smart people out here that are mostly not within their school system. So let's just say the self-educated amongst us who don't allow their educations to be stymied by their schooling could have been very helpful in figuring out different ways to approach.
Could have been.
It's too late now, though.
Yeah, could have been, right. Do we see George Bush going to plant cotton on his 80,000-acre ranch in Uruguay?
He's got some serious crises still affecting him for late November, early December, both related to the earthquake, I think, at one level, but then also something on the other end, either international or militarily. Bear in mind that very soon now China and Russia will announce that they're no longer going to use the dollar between them in their cross-border trades, and that'll take our dollar down to unheard-of lows, and it's just the start. That may be the single largest component that will strike the mass of the populace unaware is that once we hit early January, the way in which the empire crumbles will be economic. We'll have to do things that'll look really weird, like abandoning military bases and getting people back just to cut the monthly drain on these things.
Well, I've forgotten how many countries we're in now. It's absurd.
190 we have.
Is it 190? Yeah. I knew it was up there.
That's very expensive.
It's ridiculous. Totally ridiculous.
Yeah, plus we're losing in Afghanistan by any person's measure.
No
and
chance
that's a
to
war
win.
Of attrition. That's just like Vietnam.
Right.
You know, the local indigenous people, as long as they're willing to accept the suffering and the losses for the period of time and outbreed those losses, will always win.
Mm-hmm. I don't know anyone who's won a guerrilla war in terms of empire. It's
especially in the Afghanis have defeated the best that there is. You know, well, Alexander, Russia, and Russia was right next door. They didn't have our logistics.
Yeah,
plus, we're at that other period where, and this is quite clear in the data, the last couple of decades in our empire, we've exported all of our technology. We've taught everybody else how we do our
sold it off, given it away. We've had so many spies in this country that the Chinese laugh about it.
Well,
it's absurd.
I mean, we laugh about it. Let's be clear. Yeah.
Well, we do. The former director of Fort Detrick about 20 years ago said he'd come in on any given day and this ultra-high security bioweapons lab, and he'd say, there were at least half as many communist Chinese here as there were Americans on exchange programs and all that, you know. So
I've worked with some of them in government 15 years ago. Yeah.
Well, you know. Okay, back in just a minute as we survey the landscape. We'll talk to Clif and see if their research shows war coming soon, perhaps, or not. Next. Okay, we continue our conversation on this election eve, the year 2008, with Clif High of halfpasthuman.com. George, you're standing by, doing his work, the economist of the two, and he must have his hit. We're going to have him on again soon. All right, war or no war? What's it say?
Well, I mean, that's okay. There's pretty much a constant level of military action going on right now. So to say war or no war, we have to be very much more specific. Are we talking new war?
Expanded into new horizons. A new venue like Iran. Will there be a dramatic increase in the amount of activity and noise in the war meme?
No, it actually does not show it as directly held values that way. Yes, there's going to be a whole lot of anxiety about military, but apparently it's all going to be economically driven, and then there's also going to be some confrontations on an international level. Bear in mind, those confrontations on an international level we cannot win with any conventional weaponry or military whatsoever. And you'll notice that we've had manifestations of this recently with the flying in of all of the top generals and, quote, our allies into a secret conference on the East Coast, and then followed shortly thereafter by a meeting between our top general and the top generals in Russia. And, no one's saying exactly what was discussed there, but military-to-military contact, to a certain extent, can be good. Also could be bad if they're in there sort of plotting as to how it's all going to lay out. The thing is, though, that the range of possibilities expands for responses to a narrowing set of circumstances after January. So in other words, we're going to get a situation where the focus is going to be economic on all things as the dollar goes into these really nasty hyperinflation-fueled. At the same time, we have deflation on a lot of goods, so it'll be a tricky period. But things that we need will be in a hyperinflationary mode. But for instance, we may find that fuel is something we don't need because there's going to be large layoffs. And then we see that there's going to be a restructuring based on the need to know real data for the federal government. So here's our situation at the moment. We have this thing called the hedonic license that Greenspan invented years ago along with his other screwy theories that allowed them to fudge the data to make it all make sense. As it sort
hedonic, like in hedonism? How do we spell
that? Basically, at a whim, yeah.
Okay.
and it was called hedonic modification. And
Okay.
that's what we're living under now. So, for instance, the Bureau of Lies and Statistics out there says, well, that every month we have, I don't know, some number, 87,000 new jobs created just because of the, quote, birth and death model. And it's like, if you look into it, basically they're saying, because we think it's true, we're going to tell you that every month 87,000 new jobs are created. Well, at some point this comes back to haunt the people that actually have to make decisions in a world where their funding sources are crumbling around their ears. As we know, we've got several times the global GDP in derivatives out there waiting to crash on us, and they will do so early next year.
Credit card debt first.
Correct.
And then
it's
when
happening now. We're seeing it with the tightening.
Going to be a grim Christmas retail season, folks.
Right.
One present for each member of the family. That's it.
Well,
in some cases,
you got to start
if
looking
that.
at things differently too.
We have to. This is an austerity.